A political storm is brewing on Canada's west coast, and it all comes down to oil, pipelines, and a controversial tanker ban. Could British Columbia and Alberta finally find common ground, or is this the start of another federal-provincial showdown? BC Premier David Eby has opened the door, just slightly, to talks about building a new oil pipeline linking Alberta to the coast. But there's a catch. He insists the long-standing ban on oil tanker traffic off northern BC must remain intact. Without that safeguard, he says, any conversation is a non-starter. The debate reignited after Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith signed a memorandum of understanding last week. The agreement floated the idea of relaxing the tanker ban if a new bitumen pipeline eventually wins approval. That clause immediately triggered resistance from Eby and local indigenous groups, who argued the province was left out of the talks and that the risks to coastal ecosystems and communities were too great. If we can lock in the protection of the North Coast, then yes, let's sit down and talk, Eby said in a Sunday interview with CTV. He added that such an approach could ease tensions with the coastal First Nations, an alliance that has strongly opposed lifting the ban, and perhaps open the door to creative solutions. Eby didn't mince words. Overturning the ban, he warned, would be a serious mistake. A major oil spill, he added, could devastate both the environment and the local economy, an outcome British Columbians have long feared. The political divide over the North Coast isn't new. Alberta has pushed for years to export its oil through northern BC, only to be blocked by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government in 2016, when Ottawa rejected the Northern Gateway pipeline. Now, Premier Smith is reviving their ambition, pressing Ottawa to scrap the tanker ban and exploring partnerships with several energy companies to chart a new route to the Pacific. Federal officials, however, suggest there might be a middle path. Caroline Svankin, spokesperson for Federal Energy Minister Tim Hodgson, told reporters that it's not impossible to develop a new pipeline while preserving the tanker ban, as long as the route ends outside the restricted area. The Vancouver region, for example, could serve as an alternative export hub. Svankin said Ottawa plans to hold joint discussions with both Alberta and BC about potential next steps, emphasizing that any proposal must undergo formal and robust consultation with First Nations in northern British Columbia. She noted that certain ports already handle oil exports under existing regulations, such as Trans Mountain's Westbridge terminal in Burnaby. Still, Alberta's preference remains clear. Prince Rupert is their preferred destination, Svankin said, suggesting that both premiers' positions will undoubtedly shape future negotiations. Behind the scenes, tensions are simmering. Eby recently met with Energy Minister Hodgson to express frustration at BC's exclusion from recent federal Alberta discussions. Coastal First Nations, meanwhile, say they're ready to challenge any pipeline proposal in court if their rights or the environment are threatened. The memorandum between Ottawa and Alberta goes beyond pipelines. It suspends certain clean energy regulations, lifts the cap on oil and gas emissions, and commits the federal government to finding ways to support bitumen exports, possibly through modifying the 2019 tanker law that limits vessels carrying more than 12,500 tons of oil along the North Coast. Eby's office and Smith's representatives declined to comment further. But the proposed project is already shaping up to be one of Canada's most polarizing energy debates in years. Energy analyst Richard Masson from the University of Calgary's School of Public Policy warned that if the tanker ban remains, the pipeline may have no choice but to terminate in Vancouver rather than Prince Rupert or Kitimat, a less efficient outcome. Prince Rupert's deepwater port, he noted, offers easier access to Asian markets and less congestion compared to Vancouver. There aren't many other workable options, Masson said, highlighting how geography and regulation could sharply constrain decision-making. Eby, instead of backing a brand new pipeline, has suggested a simpler alternative, increasing capacity on the existing Trans Mountain system by up to 40%. The province has already approved a dredging project in the second Narrows Channel to allow larger tankers to load oil at the Burnaby terminal. Svonkin concluded with a reminder that nothing is set in stone. You can't hold a proper consultation until a route is actually chosen, she noted, underscoring that the path forward remains wide open and fiercely contested. So here's the real question: should British Columbia compromise on its environmental stance to support Alberta's economic goals? Or is preserving the tanker ban a non-negotiable line in the sand? Share your thoughts. Is this deal a breakthrough in national cooperation or a disaster waiting to happen?